Welcome back, Sports Biz Campers. This is your host, Christian, back with Calvin Parson from the Washington Redskins. Calvin, we're actually in our Chalk Talk interview now, so this will be broken into 4 quarters since we are in sports and entertainment. Going into our preseason, we'll start off with your name, where you're from, where you work, and your official job title.
Cool. My name is Calvin Parson. The Director of Community and Charitable Programs for the Washington Redskins. Originally from Woodbridge, Virginia, so grew up right here in the DC area, and going into my fifth season full-time with the Washington Redskins.
What is one aspect of working in sports do you appreciate the most?
I think for me, being in community relations, I think it's the opportunity that I have to impact not only community, but just sort of drive social change through sports. I think, ultimately the end goal of a lot of the, auxiliary parts of the business side of sports are to create lifelong consumers of the sport, but also of your brand. And so how can I do that by providing opportunities for kids in the community, to eventually give them the opportunity to be, a contributing member of society and to be a Redskins fan. So I think that's super important to me is just being able to connect those dots and show folks that we're a football team and the product on the field every Sunday is super important. But what also is important is our commitment to the DC community and to impacting the lives of folks that need it the most.
Going back into your early childhood, what did you initially want to do for a career?
Yeah, I'd say, obviously when I was super young, I played basketball growing up, so that's all I ever wanted to do was make it to the NBA. And once I realized that wasn't going to happen, I had a brief moment where I wanted to pursue culinary arts and I wanted to be a chef for a very long time. And like I said, still enjoy cooking and watching cooking shows. But I did have the opportunity to take sports marketing classes in high school, and that's when I really discovered the business side of the industry, and that there were other careers aside from being a player or a coach or a trainer. And in that sort of thing. So I always had an interest in business and marketing and different things like that. But it was really that opportunity in high school where I said, okay, a career in sports is something that I definitely want to pursue.
Who or what was your initial break into the sports industry? Like, when did you align that there was an actual career and something that you could actually pursue for that career in sports and entertainment?
When I went to college, I was a sports management major at James Madison. So obviously had a ton of opportunities to connect with the professors there, with alumni, the whole nine. I think my first sort of break came when I had the opportunity to volunteer at Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans. For the campers out there, you guys may not remember, but this is when the lights went off during, I want to say it was during halftime. And then from there, I actually ended up going to a sports networking and career conference where they were doing informational interviews, and the Redskins were there. And I remember sitting down with a young lady who at the time was on the sponsorship, corporate sponsorship team, had explained a little bit about my background and what I wanted to do in the sports community relations space. And she enjoyed the conversation, and I kept in touch with her, and she connected me with the manager of community and charitable programs for the Redskins at the time, who I considered to be one of my really good friends, but also a mentor. And I was fortunate enough to get an internship, and that opportunity led to my first full-time position right out of school, which led to me coming back to the Redskins and working here full-time.
So when you were getting these internships and different experiences within college, what things did you do to set yourself apart from your peers or your competition?
Obviously, you guys know careers in sports are super competitive, and the jobs are very few and far between. But I tried to make myself as marketable as possible. One of the things I did from an education standpoint was picked up a sport communication minor. So at James Madison, all sports management majors automatically get a minor in general business, because there are a certain number of business classes that we have to take that equate to the minor. But I picked up that sport communication background, not only to fulfill elective requirements, obviously, but because I knew it was something that could make me, more marketable. I mentioned earlier my sort of passion for writing, and this allowed me to take sports journalism classes, statistics classes, public relations classes, all things that I use in my current job today. Whether that's assisting with writing, press releases, or working alongside our PR team on player appearances and different things like that. So that's one of the things that you can do, just from a strictly, book standpoint. But the other thing is just, volunteering and getting your name out there. For those of you guys that are, one day wanting to go to college, if those colleges have sports programs, which I'm sure they do, volunteer. It doesn't matter if it's a big D1 school, or if it's a smaller D3 school or a junior college. Volunteer with those athletic departments. Find your local sports information director that needs help running stats at a basketball game or at a baseball game, and just sign up for those opportunities.
If a student were to shadow you in your job today at the Washington Redskins, what would they see you doing on your day-to-day?
Yeah, if they were to shadow me today, you would see me on a lot of calls and answering a lot of emails, because that's a lot of what my job entails. I'd say the best shadow experience would be the day before an event and the day of an event, because you really get an opportunity to take a broader look at all the planning that goes into an event when we do our big event production meeting and go through our what we call production notes, which is essentially our guide to the entire event. All the information that you need to know: timeline, event summary, if there's a food and beverage component, if there's giveaways, if there's transportation, all that kind of stuff. And then actually on event day, when you can sort of see everything come together. So we don't do a ton of shadowing opportunities, but that would be the biggest chance for folks to have a real insight into what we do. And that's one of the things that I always tell, our interns that are, getting their first, taste in professional sports, is when you're on site at an event, just like take a step back and take it all in, because we're providing opportunities for kids that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, which is super important.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're a really, really busy man as of right now. So what is one skill that has helped you succeed and continue your success in the sports industry?
Yeah, this is one thing I always tell folks when I just do interviews for entry level positions or interns, is just being able to remain adaptable and flexible. You'll probably hear this, but no 2 days in the sports industry are the same, especially now. And so just being able to always think on your toes and be able to transition really quickly between projects, but also one of my professors at JMU always said, have a plan, have a backup plan, and then be prepared to throw both of those plans away. And that's something that we sort of always fall back to, especially being so heavily involved with events and event planning. It's just you have to remain flexible at all times and just be able to react quickly.
What is a project that stuck out to you, or a campaign that, or a project that you worked on that has stuck out to you and changed your perspective on sports philanthropy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll probably always go back to our Loads of Love initiative. So this program is something that we started in 2017, essentially placing washers and dryers or building laundry centers in school buildings and nonprofit buildings, so that students have an opportunity to wash their clothes while they're at school or while they're at their nonprofit organization or after school program or shelter or what have you. Of the 100 kids that were participating in the program and having their clothes being washed at school, 90% of them were excelling in the classroom and in extracurriculars. And so just being able to see that program mature over the past few years has been mind-blowing, and something that I never thought I would be working on, but just a small taste of the impact that one of our players has had in the community.
Absolutely, and I love hearing stories like that, just because it shows, like you said earlier, how sports can be the vehicle for social change and influencing people on a much grander scale than any other industry could potentially reach. But
absolutely,
rounding off our Chalk Talk interview in the playoffs, if you could go back and tell your high school self one piece of advice, what would you go back and tell yourself?
And maybe, sure, my high school self, but also maybe my college self. I think I had this idea that I was sort of going to, walk into the perfect job, once I graduated and had my degree, and, maybe had done one internship or two internships, whatever the case may be. But, a lot of times your first job is not going to be your dream job, and that's okay. I think using that opportunity hone in on your skills and to build your skill set to eventually get to your dream job is something that you want to do with every opportunity that you have, especially when it comes to, your volunteer experience or your early work career. Anything that you have that you can tailor to the job that you one day want to have is super important.
What is the very next step a high school student should take to eventually be in a position like yours one day?
Yeah, I'd say if you guys have the opportunity to take business or marketing or sports marketing or fashion marketing, any types of classes in the sports and entertainment sector in high school, do that as early as possible. It'll definitely give you a leg up as far as figuring out the different sectors of the industry and what you want to do. For those of you that do want to major in sports management or sports administration or anything like that, go to JMU. That's my JMU plug. But no, do your research when it comes to those undergraduate programs. There are a ton of undergraduate programs out there. I will say, talk to any of the alumni of those programs. Get on LinkedIn or do your Google searches and see what kind of jobs they have now, and see if those programs require their students to have some sort of practicum or internship to graduate. I think that's super important. And then, volunteer. Volunteer at your local rec center, volunteer at your local Boys and Girls Club or YMCA or church basketball league or whatever the case may be. Once these things start to open up a little bit more, anything that you can put on your resume that will get you to where you want to be is super important.
Well, I want to thank you for volunteering your time to pouring back into the next generation of high school students. I know they're definitely going to find value in it, and definitely look forward to seeing some responses we have after watching this video. So high school students, be on the lookout for more content we have coming up soon. Boom.